Oh, do di da fe, do di da fe, ko do di da fe, do di da fe, Petchei achoti rayati nati tamati Petchei achoti rayati nati tamati Didi dum bum 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 didi dum didi dum bum bum So we began the Tivah Shalom. What word around did we get up to? Somewhere in the middle of the first column.
We didn't quite get to next okay.
We didn't even get there to Yom HaSheni?
No.
Okay.
I think we got right before that.
Okay, good.
Amen.
So we'll briefly review what we've been discovering. Welcome back to you.
Thank you.
And we discovered that the pasuk in Mishlei sets up a contrast between Mirma and Shalom, Choshe Ra and Simcha, or another alternative was Choshe Ra and Yotzei Shalom, and Mirma is the opposite of Simcha. What was clear is that people who are conniving, deceptive, disingenuous, and basically people who live with a gap between their inner reality and what they express externally are people who live without peace and live without joy. And they clearly live without peace, as the Maharal will will later describe, because they are not in any kind of a shlemut with themselves. They're in a constant disintegration between their heart and their mouth, the way Chazal put it, where pi v'libo einam shavim echad b'peh ve'echad b'lev, meaning that there's one thing in his mouth and a different thing in his heart. There are people who therefore experience reality that way as disintegrated. They're not able to really focus on the true movement of life towards its fulfillment and its wholeness, because they are basically plotters. They're Choshei Ra. They're plotters who are actually committed to Roa. They're committed to the lack of there being a fabric of creation, because the disorientation and disintegration of life is what offers them their opportunity to manipulate it according to what it is that they have as their agenda. So they're actually plowing evil. In other words, it's what they are dedicated to. Evil, not in the moral sense, as we've always pointed out, evil in the ontological sense of being disconnection, mitroea, weakened foundations, trua as being the staccato, disconnected sounds, all that we're familiar with in the postmodern perspective, is really a reflection of this kind of charishas hara. I mean, just the image is so powerful to think of people who are, instead of plowing the earth for it to self-organize into systems of biological life, systems of vegetation and of the entire ecology of what the earth produces of its own, incredibly, as if you plow it and plant it and let it grow what it produces, the system will work. What you need to do is to plow it and to plant it and to pray for the rain. That's basically what you need to do, and to a very great extent, at least pre the introduction of the Ra, of the Achilas Eitzadat Torah. There isn't even Kotzvah Dardar. There's a system that perfectly functions thanks to your having plowed and prayed for rain, maybe even just prayed for rain. But the Charishas Hara is a commitment of people who live in Myanmar. Mamish that way, like you see them like trying to undo any kind of a universal narrative, trying to undo any kind of historic memory, trying to undo any kind of a consciousness which is rooted in deep ecology, deep personality, deep elements of what makes us truly conscious beings, carrying with us eons of life and its processes. I was thinking about how deeply the from the other end of the spectrum, so to speak, the Malachim, in saying Ma enosh ki tizkerenu, saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ma enosh ki tizkerenu, in a sense undermine their own argument, because the feature of the Malach as being a sort of a disembodied intelligence is, in a very deep sense, that the one thing that's lacking is a memory. Is a memory, is being rooted in a past, rooted in an evolution that has resulted in you, rooted in a process. So much so that, like we saw in the parsha, most of the malachim live one day
That's why I have no identity.
and therefore have no identity, have no name. Have no name. Lama zeh tish'al l'shmi. Lama zeh tish'al l'shmi. Shemos are a specific function of humanity in calling things names. That was, according to the Medrash, what Hashem demonstrated as being the incredible capacity of human intelligence is the ability to give a name, because the ability to give a name is to identify that which has emerged from into an identity. But for that, you need to understand identity. You have to have some kind of a theory of mind or a theory of identity that can apply identity to something else and say, oh, this is what you are. This is what you are. Not as an announcement of a disembodied and disconnected intelligence, but rather as a declaration of someone who experiences what identity means, what it is, to know it in a real way. So to be a choresh ra is oftentimes you'll find this actually. People think it's ironic until they understand the nature of and the risks of high intelligence. But oftentimes you'll find among the highly intelligent this kind of harishas ra, this kind of very cold intellect, which is plowing the earth. I mean, it's just like a violent image. I don't know, something really bothers me about this. Like plowing the earth and for its disintegration, for its disharmony, and for its disecology. It's like mamish, and that derives from this commitment really to nirma, to not really speak what it is that I am, to not really expose the truth of my being, and that in order to really take full control and to take things to where it is that I want them to be. So you hear how the kind of inner wholeness of zikaron and the full meaning of zikaron, the inner wholeness of having an integrated self, and we're just coming back from America. I'm just kind of wondering what that was like, in the context of all of this. It's like,
there was some of that there.
What's that?
All that you're speaking about.
Okay, it's like, and raising money in America. My gosh, I know. Like the commitment of nirma as being reflected in an activity and a behavior which is harishas hara, stands in utter opposition to the yoetz shalom, to someone who is he's not an ish shalom, he's a yoetz shalom, meaning that what he grows, really, what he promulgates, what he seeks to facilitate and enlighten other people with, is a vision of shalom. And so in a sense, he needs to sort of stand out of the situation in order to provide it with its ye'utz. And then miraculously and beautifully, that leads to real simcha, to real simcha. And it's towards the expression and realization of simcha that Bezrat Hashem, what we're going to read today is going to take us towards. So this was one aspect of things. The other aspect of things that we really came to appreciate last time is how much Shalom begins to play a part in the Chumash from this point on. Shalom has really not been a feature of the stories until we get to Yaakov Avinu, and then he starts using that word. Yes, Shalom this, Shalom this, Shalom that. He comes Shalem. To Irshchem. He then sends Yosef Tzaddik Lirot et Shlom Echav, He is clearly, I mean, if you mamish just watch words, you see the density of the appearance of Shalom Dafka in the context of Yaakov, who I mean, you see the Chochmah of Shlomo here. You see the Chochmah of Shlomo. Like he's Dafka, the man who needs to face the ultimate Mirma.
Yeah, he's always facing the Chorshei Ra.
He's also always facing the Chorshei Ra. Always facing the Chorshei Ra. I mean, such a tragic life. I mean, everything is just always disintegrating. And the only, prayer in Chazal that he really has for us, Shemitato tiyeh shlema. So he's worried, is Mitatiti tiyeh shlema. We pray for that mitah shlema every time we go to sleep. And it's that mitah shlema which is introduced into the world, literally when he goes to sleep in Ir Shalom, in Ir Shalem, in the city of Shlemut, in Yerushalayim, where he makes a mitah shlema of 12 stones that all bind together, under his head, of an entire land that binds together under his head, of a vision, which is a vision of holism that he has, which I'm not sure if we explained this last time. I remember when it was Mishchadishli, the relationship between the ladder and the message of watching ascending awareness, right? Which is really what it means to watch Malachim going up and down. You're watching ascending intelligence, ascending awareness, going to a higher and higher vista and broader vision, and then returning down, expressed, as we explained this more at length last time, expressed in the statement, which really is the visual expression of the statement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes to him, which is Haaretz asher ata shochev aleha, which is Hasula Matzah ba'artza, right? Lechat neno l'zarecha, ufaratz dayam avaked matzafon avanegba, which you can see as I raise my arms, is really upward movement in terms of the vertical scale, which is a description of a horizontal shift of Yaakov spreading out, and everyone being blessed by this incredible dispersion of the Jewish people, which, I mean, for thousands of years after Yaakov, it's unbelievable to have been lying there and hearing this. I mean, it's unimaginable that such a thing would actually happen, that he would have enough seed to do that and to spread, to all the ends of the earth, right? Even the economy of China, my gosh, we're having the Jews touched. The billions of the populations of the planets. It's like mamish. And then, to come back, like Hashem says, to come back, it's literally the vision of the power of an integrative mind that is able to, rise high, see the breadths, and bear the fruit of progeny that continues to have the high mind and broad vision, even though they're spread in all dispersion, the exact opposite of Chorshei Ra. The people of unity continue no matter what. Continue no matter what to call back to Yisrael, Avihem, and say Shema Yisrael. We remember, we know it's all one. There is a unity that underlies all of this. There's one fabric to this creation, and no matter how many strands seem to have been dispersed into innumerable and disconnected corners of this creation, we continue to stand for the high vision that sees the shalom of it all, the shlemut of it all. This is truly Yaakov Avinu's quest, not his success, but his quest. So that beautifully, in terms of the narrative of the Chumash, is what empowers him to face the mirma that's belev Chorshei Ra. Literally, I mean, he needs to have that vision of shalom, which he has in Ir Shalem, which was at that point only called Shalem, and in his sleep in Mitato Shlema to touch that, So so all of this became like just a marvelous picture, even more deeply, right? A marvelous picture that Chazal point out was actually a picture of his own shlemut, because he was able to see how the same man lying on the ground was the same man whose face is chakuka the kisei hakavod. He's watching himself as being a perfectly integrated human being, integrated with his perfect, his form of perfection. Here in the world, meaning that he really is living a personal shlemut, which is of course the meaning of tam, and the opposite of the merame, who's someone who is shalem in the deep sense of being at whole with himself. That is what empowers him, enables him to face. It doesn't matter what merame you put me in front of. I remain clear on who I am, what I am. I remain embedded in a very broad fabric of interconnected reality. So it's very hard to shake a person like that with deception and beguiling. So we discovered, how beautifully this is. He even says, right? The pasuk that talks, which is really, I think we need to say, Pada b'shalom nafshi, ikravli, that my brothers turned on me in war. My brother Esau turned on me in war, and God redeemed me with shalom. Is really is really what Yaakov Avinu and Yisrael are dedicated to. So these were some of the contexts that we gave this learning, and saw how the Maharal began last time to explore, by first teaching us a bit of the commitment of the Baalei Riv and the Chorshei Ra, and told us how they have to do everything surreptitiously, very secretively, and that secretive aspect of the way that they're choresh, playing on the term choresh not only as being one who plows, but also in the sense of charash, right? Cheresh, charash. Since they do it secretly, they're like the secret workers of evil. They always have to do it with cheresh, that they need to do it secretly, because on the tactical level, they need to hide what they're about, because people will not accept their divisive intentions. They will assume, if they discover that that's what you're doing, that you have some personal agenda, and so you need to cover the personal agenda with some kind of like universals,
Intellectual framework.
Intellectual framework, a new narrative. It's like it just becomes disgusting. But the great teacher of all these people is, what we would put the young girl before the elder one. Me being really now. It's like, are you? It's not the way it's done. Are you? You're my brother. You're my flesh. Are you my brother in my flesh that you should work for me? But it's like, what's going on? That kind of manipulation of language, etc., is always part of the work of them. That's on the tactical level, but on the pnimi level, the truth is that it always needs to be done secretly, because, and this is the commitment of all of this, because the truth of creation is expressed in people's deep longing and yearning for there to be shalom. We have a deep, natural yearning and longing for there to be shalom. People therefore need always to coat their malicious scheming for battle and war in all kinds of. They always have to coat it with, like, really what it's about is, ultimately peace and celebration of life. And I mean, it will always be coated with those kinds of ideologies, no matter what, because the truth of our desire is reflective of the truth of creation, which is that really it is all shalom. It is all shalom. And we discovered last time, when we discussed this last time, and this I'll complete, something with the expanded review, but what we discussed last time is a very different vision of the evolutionary process as being one in which it's the interconnectedness and the sharing and the symbiosis and the synchronicity of processes and of events that reflect a more deep aspect of the nature of the evolutionary process as systems organized from within themselves into wholeness, as opposed to the fierce battle, which is definitely inherent to the mechanics of the unfolding of that, but with a vision of what it's unfolding towards, ever more complex systems and integration and reintegration in higher and higher order. Much more the symbol of Yaakov's ladder is appropriate to that kind of a vision of what evolution is than the mechanics of the processes along the way, which can be so fierce and harsh. And so that was what we spoke out some more about last time. But the point for us is that's why you always need to sort of, like, if you're a Choresh Ra, you have to do it b'cheresh, you have to do it secretly and quietly, because on a deep level, in deep psychology, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Okay, so this is where we had got to. Are there questions about this or comments?
I'm noticing the contrast between the Choresh Ra and the Yoetz Shalom, where you have embedded in Yoetz the Eitz. In other words, actual genuine growth comes from the Shalom, whereas the Choresh Ra really all he's doing is breaking things up. Beautiful.
Yeah, I noticed that. I don't quite know what to do with it. I appreciate what you just did. Yeah. It's like to be Yoetz is to turn disparate elements into organic matter that now grows upwards, organizes the system, goes upwards. The Yoetz creates an Eitz. Okay.
It seemed like Yaakov Avinu on the level of the story, like, is pretty intimate with some sense of the Choresh Ra from inside. Like when Lavan says to him, "B'mkomenu," are we going to do that? It's hinting at what was done in your place with your.
Okay, so yeah, that's a much broader issue in the narrative, but there's no question that I mean, he even lets Rachel know. He's like he's the son of Rivka, who's the brother, whose brother is her father Lavan, and she actually did import Mirma into the house of Yitzchak and utilized those methods with the disguise of Yaakov. Mamish comes, so she has actually incorporated absolutely and that's an important point, just in keeping in mind broader vision, because some of those methods have their place. I mean, nature is full of disguise. and deception, right? For purposes of survival, for purposes of promoting movement forward, for the survival of different species in the face of much more powerful species. But if the only vision is a small and local one, then beguilement becomes its own achievement. But if the vision remains of a broad ecology and process, so then that becomes incorporated into a much bigger picture, which is moving the processes towards their shalom and towards their truth. Of all personalities, right? Rivka, her very name means the ability to hold two together. Rivka is the thing the two oxes wear.
Yoke. It's like a double yoke.
A double yoke that holds two oxes together.
Eglei marbek.
Okay, but we're not going to go off into that. But that's very important to note that in Konami it's there, but that's not called being a choresh ra. It's not being called a choresh ra. You might be a yoetz shalom who needs at times to employ those methods. But that's obviously makes it more complex. Sure. Yeah.
I understand why we're doing it, I think. But I'm a little bit uncomfortable talking about Horesh Ra so much in the third person because it's certainly something that I recognize in myself. And so the question is, who are those people and what do we do about those people? But really, sort of, okay, it's something I recognize myself, and what is tikkun for that?
Okay, it's good. It's good you point that out. Okay. Yeah. No, believe me. Well, not believe me. Could you note that?
What's that?
Okay. So totally. I mean that itself would be worthwhile work to explore in the context of the Chabura. When do I fall into that, and why do I fall into that? So okay, so we're going to continue with V'nikra HaMachloket Asher Heimosim B'Shem Ra. Ki Hashem Hazeh Hu Davka El HaMachloket. It's Ra, which is the title for Machloket. כמו שאמרו במדרש, למה לא נאמר בשני כי טוב, מפני שבו נברא המחלוקת? So it's quite clear that Chazal understand Tov to reflect integration and connectivity, and Ra to reflect disintegration and tearing things apart. שמזה תדע כי המחלוקת הוא רע, והכתוב אומר גם כן, עושה שלום ובורא רע. I think we did read this last time, but okay. עושה שלום ובורא רע. That the contrast that's given in the pasuk in the Navi is between Shalom and Ra. It's quite interesting. ובוודאי הרע הזה הוא המחלוקת, שהוא הפך השלום. אם כן המחלוקת הוא רע. And as always, right? As always, that Ra is, can serve life. Clearly Yom HaSheni was crucial for there to be any development of life. So in the moral sense, we're not talking about it necessarily as being evil, but it will always be Ra.
Well, it's a question of, as you said, whether one isolates this or sees it as part of the process. All life depends on breakdown, right? You can't digest food without destroying its structure. It's a question of whether you see that as a productive or destructive process. Right. Yom Sheni, as it stands on its own, okay, that's Ra, but as part of Matzah Bereshit, so it's absolutely necessary in order to reintegrate. There has to be a breakdown.
Absolutely. That is like in the short scale. In the long scale, there cannot be any creation without there being the separation from the one who is all.
Mhm.
Because in being all, there is no thing, and in no thing there is no creation, which is why, by the way, I believe the pasuk in the Navi is Oseh Shalom Uvorei Ra. This is not to be taken lightly at all.
The real Bria.
It's the real Bria. Creation itself is profoundly Ra. We don't like to perhaps to focus on it that way, but it's God, again. This is no, but you see, this is why God needs to keep insisting that it's Tov. Because obviously,
You got
if
protest too much.
obviously, for Kadosh Baruch Hu, in order to imprint it with, its continued life, needs to declare it to be Tov. So that clearly implies that until that's active seeing, as the Ramban calls it, right? It's like an active seeing of an integrating vision. Up until that point, is Ra.
So the declaration itself is necessary.
And therefore, the declaration is crucial. The Ramban, if you read the Ramban on those psukim, the declaration is crucial because that's what establishes it as something that can persist. Otherwise, it will continue to devolve. Because, in the other language of Chazal, right, that the creation was a like two spools, specifically two spools that are spun and then unspun. Just unspun. That unspinning of thread means that you're talking about a creation that's let loose and will continue to be let loose until it's declared with the statement of die that it is good. In other words, up until now. But if it's not stopped, so it will just continue to unravel. It's the beauty of that medrash and the beauty of all of this, that in a sense creation is able to emerge from within itself into self-organized reality about which HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply needs to say to it, die. That's the name Shaddai. He simply needs to say to it, die. As we pointed out in the past, that most people, only emphasize one aspect of that medrash when they talk about Shaddai, Amar lo lamo die. But they miss the richness of it because that same word Shaddai means Shadi, which means to throw it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only in the double meaning, right? It's like a creationist reading of Shaddai, Shamal Modai, that is like, somehow God keeps the things in order,
right.
But it ignores the random processes that are the disorder that precede that, which are implied by it, but nobody wants to notice that, because they want God, keeping it from the very beginning, keeping everything in order with an agenda. But that's okay. I don't want to fly off right now, but in a deep sense, that's in a very profound sense. That's to continue to live in Nirma. Why does that continue to live in Nirma? Because if your sense of the world is that way, so that's reflecting your sense of yourself that way. If I don't keep everything under tabs and under control in myself, it's just going to blow apart.
It's a closed system perspective.
So then who are you? But I'm talking personal. Like, who are you? If that's what you think of yourself, that if I don't keep everything under like really hard closed wraps, we all know people like that. We all know that in ourselves. If I don't keep things under like really tough, hard closed wraps, so then it'll all just like blow apart. Wait a minute. So therefore I need to, and therefore my whole vision of creation and God will reflect my personal sense. Like it's psychoanalysis of that kind of a vision. Chazal actually are saying precisely the opposite, that he threw it because he had such, so to speak, belief in it or confidence in it or more deeply, exactly, existential knowledge of the nature of what it is, that you throw it and it will get somewhere. What then Hashem needs to do, so to speak, is declare up here. Then what does he look at? What he looks at now, he will declare as Tov. It's a parallel of the same thing. In other words, to say that it's tov means, at this point, it holds. At this point, it holds.
It's a bit like amelioration of a dream.
What's that?
It's a bit like amelioration of a dream, isn't it?
It's a bit like the
Was it
Hatavat Chalom.
hatavat chalom. Okay, fine. Giving it the interpretation, giving it the context and the integration of it, exactly. But that means that in its nature it is disintegrated. But the truth is that is the case from the very beginning, because for anything to be nivra, as we pointed out right earlier in the year, everything to be nivra is to be bar, and anything that is bar means that it's standing outside of, which means that there has been a reduction of the simple unity of the divine, so that there will be a space, which means that there will be a particular bits of information, particular bits of quantifiable organization that can now function as a bria. So literally, it's mamish. The Navi means it, that he's borei ra, not that he's borei ra in the sense of he also created evil. This is
essential creation.
That's a definition of what it is. That's a definition of what it is, and therefore he needs to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to say, tov. No, it's tov. What do you mean it's tov? What was it until you said that? What was it until you said that? Yeah.
So it seems to me this is a parallel, like the emergence of divine consciousness of Malchut, so to speak, comes in that statement of tov. Right? And then the parallel to it is Adam's task of the Shama, because God's consciousness holds the wholeness of tov. That's a declaration of what it is. Adam's task of Avdul Shama is based on the faith that there is some tov that can be nurtured and
absolutely,
and so meaning, as opposed to the agronomist who sees the chaos of nature and wants to brownfield it to make order, right? In order to produce what he perceives to be necessary, right? The gardener, has an inner belief, basically. Doesn't see anything necessarily. There's an inner belief that with love and care, a higher order can emerge.
Yes. And I would say, beautifully put. And I would take it. I would take it even more primal, to the way Chazal described that the act, which is man's participation in the creative organization of a dispersed and disconnected reality, is hakarat hatov. The first thing that man is called upon to do is lahakir batov. And that Rashi is just so
never goes away.
Primal, because the definition of man's function in joining HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is Vayar Elokim Kito, is to imitate that. But that just doesn't, it's not like in the religious sense of, to be grateful. It's in the real sense of Hakarat HaTov, which means to be aware. Be aware. Be aware of what? Be aware of the Tov. What does it mean to be aware of the Tov? Well, now we're seeing to be aware of the Tov is to be aware of the fabric of all of this, to see the pattern, to understand the context, to discover the narrative, to see the story, to realize the interrelationship and integration of all things. That's the shift from the aid into Adam that we have spoken out, into the addition of the Mem Sofi of the Malchut. This is really literally is our task, our only task, in a deep sense, and our purpose in creation.
Just lastly, I was just thinking this in education, this basic principle that was always given to me in outdoor education in particular, but I think it's still always, is that the posture of the educator is a tremendous belief in the ability of the other.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, and that is the ultimate hakarat hatov. Whereas that I see in this person, they have their own life story and their own experience. They have their view of themselves. But I, from the outside, so to speak, have a core posture of a belief in the tremendous potential. And so that posture alone evokes from the other that which they perhaps can't even see themselves.
Yeah. That's to be a Yoetz Shalom.
Yeah.
Yoetz Shalom.
There's a kind of disintegration that actually precedes that, in the sense that
In what sense?
in the sense that if we are seeing and eliciting the good, and it is a good that, or we're taking that almost as an article of faith, then
I think I know what you mean, Michael. I think I know. I'll help you out here, and then we'll go weiter. But there's no question that the stance of the Yoetz is of one who also recognizes that there needs to be a breakdown in the current condition in order to expose a much deeper level of integration. That's just the way all progress is. So all creative process involves a traveling through the Ra and being willing to go through the Ra and the Tohu and the garbage of losing your way and not seeing, because it's just so dark and so disoriented. Like if you grab on too quickly in those stages, then instead of being a Yoetz Shalom, you end up simply asserting a certain kind of a nirma, essentially,
Order.
of just.
You have to be aware of the parts in order to integrate them.
That's right. And sometimes in order to be aware of the parts, they need to just blow apart.
So when we every morning say "Oseh Shalom Uborei et Hakol," we're basically trying to color our interpretation of Ra.
Right.
We're already prejudice it already with the view of integration into the whole.
Yeah.
Is that a softening or is that a specific orientation?
I think it's a. I would say that it's I would be Melamed Zchus on that. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's the description of Yaakov's ultimate vision. Even though he, of all suffered more Ra and Machloket than anyone, Mamish, with his twin brother among his children.
Maybe it's above it.
Yeah. Okay, so now that's going to take us to the other part of this, which is the Yotzei Shalom and their Simcha. Ramar, ki Yotzei Shalom ra'u eleihem hasimcha. Kasher Shalom hu shlemut, כמו שהתבאר עוד איך השלום הוא שלמות הכל, והוא נותן המציאות על הכל. Shalom is that which provides the reality, notting mitziyut, existence and reality to the all. But note how he's looking to enunciate this phenomenon of shlemut hakol, noten mitziyut al hakol.
The idea there is important.
At that, yes, I agree. Like, how is that? In other words, shalom is the end point towards which all things will arrive, and also it is the beginning point upon which all things rest and are rooted such that they have existence. And this is something which is important to notice in the Maharal. His look is always that way of the root, which becomes the tachlit, the end point. In other words, it is because all things are rooted in shalom that their end realization and all of their, in a sense, all of their grasping and groping and growing is towards shalom. And that is what gives mitziyut el hakol. And I think a lot of the reason for that, is because then again, and this is so opposite of certain visions of physical reality. The truth of reality is not entropic. It's not towards disintegration. It's towards integration. Again, there's all kinds of processes along the way of diffusion, but its ultimate completion is in a final integration, and that is what really, in a sense, what's giving it its ability to have a wholeness that can be maintained its existence.
I was just thinking about the physics of it. There's a whole question that if the energy of the Big Bang at a certain point played out, that you would then have the forces of gravity would then take back over and you would
pull it all back.
If the energy were too low.
instead it played out to the point where it was no longer dominant.
Finished off.
Right, yeah, like that you would.
It's one of the possibilities.
It's one of the theories is they would then return back to
that one
original
little
state of singularity.
Yeah.
Crunch.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I guess
That's
we've
what
been
we're
mockery
envisioning.
of that.
No, but I mean it means from a physics standpoint that entropy is only a phase.
Right. Nekach.
Dispersion.
Excuse me. Nekach ra'ui el rodfei hashalom hasimcha. Now he's going to explain how does that emotive property, if that's what simcha is, right? And it's one of the things we're going to want to discover through this learning, right? But how is it that rodfei shalom have appropriate to them, and always ra'ui in the Maharal means existentially appropriate. Ki hasimcha הוא כאשר נמצא דבר בשלמות, כמו שהאבל על הפסד וחיסרון. So first, he's just showing it by contrast that simcha has to do with a kind of wholeness, an open reality that is able to include in itself in perhaps in an ever increasing wholeness, but its orientation is always towards a fullness, a sova, satisfaction, a completeness, as opposed to the evel, who's mourning over loss. וזה בעצמו מה שנקרא שלום, שהוא מלשון שלמות. כי השלום משלים המציאות עד שנמצא הדבר בשלמות בלי חיסרון, ודבר זה יתבהר עוד. ולכך, ראוי אל יועצי שלום, הרודפים שלום, בין איש ובין אחיו, שמחה. כאשר השמחה היא על השלמות, כמו העוול, שהוא כאשר יש הפסד והיעדר. All right, let's continue to read and see how he gives like a full picture here. והמרמה הוא הפך השמחה. כי כאשר האדם הוא בשמחה, הוא בשלמות. When a person is himself, now he's turning it inwards.
Yes.
Right.
And therefore, and reverse the process.
Exactly. And on the personal level, a person who's living a dissonance in himself is the opposite of someone who's in joy. כי כאשר האדם הוא בשמחה, הוא בשלמות. Now he's describing not just the nature of a reality that leads to simcha, but the nature of a personality that is able to experience simcha. That ra'ui sheyeh ha'adam b'shlemut kasher hu rodot shalom, she'etzem ha'shalom hu ha'shlemut, v'hefech ze ha'myoma shu davar shel rama'ut. So the opposite of shlemut is rama'ut. V'kol rama'ut hu sheker, ve'ein lo metziyut. ודבר זה שייך לחורשי אבן שהם משלחי מדנים בין איש לרעהו, שדבר זה הירוס מציאות העולם. What was appropriate to people who are chorshei ra and chorshei aven is lies, is sheker. And the reason what's appropriate to chorshei ra is sheker is because, again, in terms of ra'ui, the truth of the world is not that way. Emet is something which stands in by virtue of its ability to incorporate and include things which don't make sense. I'll expose to you the underlying issue that will make it make sense to you. You see this happen with people in trying to discover their truth. You see it happening in science when there's phenomena that are inexplicable and therefore remain outside the shlemut, and then discovering an underlying truth about them reveals how, no, this is actually, we just need to revamp the way we're seeing it so that we're able to incorporate and include those phenomena which seem to be just outside of it. So the emet is always going to be an ever more inclusive power and integrative power. This is also why Yaakov Avinu is the emet. And the sheker is, it will always have some element of destructiveness to it, because it's setting up the dispersion of the elements. Yeah. L'kacha rama'ut v'machloket shayachim ze lazeh. V'chein hasimcha shishlemut ra'ui el rodfei shalom shu shlemut ha'metziyut. U'lefichach amar כשם שיש בלב חורשי אבן מרמה, כי המרמה הוא דבר שקר, אין לו מציאות, וזה שייך לחורשי אבן. So you understand what he's pushing here is that Rama'ut is always participant in non-reality. On some level, it's looking to pull the wool over your eyes. It's looking to make it appear to you to be other than the way it actually is. That's all. So as soon as I'm looking to make something appear to you other than the way it actually is, so there's no actuality to it. And as soon as there's no actuality to it, so then it belongs to the world of chisaron, because it really is not. Basically, I've spun a story which gives the impression of having reality, but really doesn't have any reality at all. It's just a simple imaginings.
And the key is it creates machloket. It causes people to then see things differently, because the only basis you have for shlemut is people seeing things the same.
Which is to
Rodef shalom,
which is to see things as they really are.
I mean, that's a
Whatever,
philosophical
real,
discussion,
okay.
but that was my point. So the only basis, at least we have an experience, is that if everyone sees things the same, then you can say at least we all agree on what we're seeing.
No, at least how the different seeings fit together.
Well, I'm saying it doesn't be exactly the same, but that's as opposed to that's why machloket
That's
is rooted in
this.
this. Yeah,
The shlemut with the mitziyut is
Doesn't mean
a
everyone's
mitziyut
this-
that started with the dispersion and started with the differentiation, but the shlemut with that mitziyut doesn't necessarily mean that we come to some unified, singular place.
no, but there has to be some unified seeing. That's no longer machloket.
Or a way of holding both.
A way of holding it.
A way of holding
Shlemut.
both, right? I think that would be the other level, right? In other words, the ability to walk into the Beit Midrash, as the Gemara in Chagiga describes it, and to hear all the voices of different understandings, and to turn your ear into an afar keset, which is broad enough to be able to hold them, and then to have the breadth of soul to be able to choose one without it being to the denigration and to the exclusion of the others is really is a path to the kind of shalom, which is a holistic one, in which nevertheless all are committed to the recognition that somehow all of those different perspectives do integrate and serve the same fabric.
Which is the unified seeing.
Exactly, which is
It's not what
ultimately-
you're seeing, it's how you're seeing.
Exactly.
Which is actually
What do you mean? They've been arguing back and forth for the last 100 pages, right?
So-
All of that. And,
Right. Right. שהשמחה הוא השלמות, כמו שהתפאר. שהשלום משלים המציאות, ולכך ראוי להם השמחה, כאשר רודפים השלום, שהוא שלמות המציאות. So, there are many pieces to this. You can see this is like a very, it's almost austere, right? This is what the Maharal does, right? It's almost austere things that we've reflected on in the way the Rambam describes simcha as being ruined by self-conscious cholek kavod li'atzmo. That path of cholek, exactly, being cholek kavod li'atzmo. The Rambam, if you remember, the Rambam says that simcha is an avodah gdola. V'chol ha-monea atzmo mimenu, monea atzmo mimenu, ra'ui lihipara mimenu. Excuse me, kol monea atzmo mimenu v'cholek kavod li'atzmo, ra'ui lihipara mimenu. Extraordinary insight in the Rambam. Extraordinary insight being that the natural reality is one of simcha, just as the natural reality is one of shalom and shlemut. And the antithesis of that is moving into cholek, separating yourself out from the wholeness and being concerned only with your personal weightiness and honor. As soon as you do that, as soon as you become self-involved, self-conscious, then do you see me? Are you paying attention to me? Am I am I worthwhile in your eyes? And you're done. You're done, because what now you've done is, instead of maintain a sense of participation in the wholeness, you've turned things inward, and therefore you lose the simcha. Why should you lose simcha just because you're cholek kavod? Maybe I should be even more intensely happy now that I'm involved with myself. Finally, really doing what I want to, right? And getting honor for it. It pashut does not work that way. It does not work that way. As soon as you get self-involved, you lose the free, open-ended sense of existence as a flow that is moving things by the very nature of what it is towards a more expanded and integrative reality. That's the way it works. So, yeah. Yeah, the things you guys want to bring out.
It strikes me that elsewhere the Rambam, the Maharal says that simcha is the emotive state of emunah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think it relates deeply with where we began, because the emunah is that there is a shlemut.
Right.
And so rodefei shalom, ru'ei lam simcha, because the reason that they're being rodef shalom is because this emunah, there is such a thing.
Yeah. I mean, the passage that you're referring to, which is very, very beautifully relevant here, is where Moshe Rabbeinu
Loses his
hits the
simcha.
Sela. And the way the Maharal describes that is that he went into chaos, which was to lose his simcha. And the reflection of his simcha would have been speaking to the stone And the reason for that is because that someone who is in simcha never tries to force things. He never tries to force things because his awareness of reality is such that it's a perfect whole, which is embedded in the wholeness and is moving towards its reincorporation in wholeness. And so any kind of a movement towards anger and forcing it will be taking away from that vision.
So we should be happy when speaking to our kids and they just sit there like a stone.
You'll probably have a lot more success with raising them than hitting them. Yeah, because every action brings about an equal and opposite reaction.
And they can act as one
something
too.
Karen says to me all the time is
It
that
works.
so many of the things that make me angry are the things that when they're 18 years old I won't care about.
Right.
And so that's what he's speaking about.
That's the
He says, if I had a
perspective.
wholeness of vision of who I actually hope these children would be,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't get angry when, like the 5-year-old draws on the wall with a crayon. Because really, when he's 18, am I going to care that he's dead? The answer is, of course not. But if I get angry and need to assert my authority in that moment, what I actually might be doing is undermining his ability, my ability to participate in who I want him to be.
I hope when he's 18 that he's still drawing on the wall.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean. But that phrase is a very powerful phrase. It's like, well, so much of what upsets me in that, the defiance or et cetera, is just not going to matter when they start to become who I dream they could be. That's an emunah.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Did you say when they become what you dream them to be?
Well, when they reach the stage when they could be. I have a dream. I have a vision. And the question is, does that vision inform my behavior in that moment? And that's where the emunah and the shleimut meet in action. Or no, I've lost it right now. I'm in the particularity of this action and my need and the need to force it.
And do you think there would be something illegitimate about having a dream? What is it going to be?
Having a dream? No, especially when it's applied, I think, so beautifully as Mike's presenting it. But then becoming what I dream them to be, I think also the challenge.
Be careful about that.
Yeah. As opposed to what they're supposed to become.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the openness that.
Yeah. I guess it'll depend on how many details you fill in the dream, as opposed to how rooted it is in principles and framework, as opposed to a very particular and decisive path.
Unless we're going to say,
My challenge is almost the opposite, which is that it's not that I care that they're drawing on the wall, but that they have a respect, which I see as part of the bigger vision. So
Right.
I get caught in getting angry about
Them
the
not having
connection
that
with the
respect.
larger piece,
Right.
which still might undermine.
Yeah, it might be that a sameach person would just take out, a big piece of paper and give it to him. That would be like, I think, the simchatic way of incorporating what he's doing. I don't know if he would have as much satisfaction.
But there's also the strategic vision, which is is this the moment for me? I hear the values because I'm also generally not always hung up on the particulars. Often I extrapolate, but if they don't listen to me now or they don't respect. But the question again that I'm always receiving back from my wife is, okay, but was this the moment to push that? Because if that's really what matters to you in these moments of conflict, it's not generally where they absorb. Sometimes it is. Okay, sometimes yes, the answer is yes. They need to listen to me right now because that's a fundamental value in Seder. That's not when I experience cost, which is what I was getting out of you.
Sitting like a stone.
Yeah, when I experience the toss, if they are not bending to my will, is usually a big flashing light for me of thinking, this is really not about values and vision. It's about my need to make something happen, to force it.
Right, to assert.
Yeah, to force it.
Yeah, and I think one of the really powerful insights here is that in that assertion, there will always be some element of pneuma.
Yeah, I put it in the language of values, but they need to listen because when they grow up, yeah, really? That's what's driving me right now.
Right. That's in terms of behavior.
Yeah.
And in terms of the pnimi reality of mirma, there's always going to be an element of mirma, because to be merame is basically to be merim et atzmecha alav. In other words, you're not allowing. This was the insight of the Maharal, really. In other words, you're not, if you don't have the conviction or the emunah, in the deep sense of emunah, that the waters will flow. If you speak to them, they will flow. Hashem has exposed to you that this is where reality is right now. This is where reality is right now. That's all Hashem ever really does, is expose you. This is where reality is right now. There's a conflation of events which has led to this moment now, and that's therefore for your tapping into, so that the waters flow. So any kind of a attempt to impose is going to involve in mirma klape the reality. In other words, you're not allowing reality to be what it is, and therefore you're in living a distortion and living out of simcha. Well, of course, it's always a question like when you're forcing and when you're guiding, when you're doing gardening and when you're doing
Agro-industry.
Agro-industry. Okay, right. You say that these are tricky things, personally to identify, let alone nationally.
Let's not go there, please.
Okay.
Daniel,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, does the Maharal see in Nativ Kas? Because there's some
He has a
room-
Nativ Kas,
Is there
sure.
some room for Kas, in Avodah?
He has
Is
it.
it printed as Kas is the opposite of Simcha. Kas is when you lose your Simcha. You lose in the Shlemut.
That's right.
It's why would I want to go there?
Right. You see, now first of all, you hear very deep insights here about Kas, also because Kas will be related on a certain level to Avlut. There's pain in there. There's pain over loss. There's something missing that is leading in my sense of life to that anger. Right? That's a very deep insight around Kas. Is there a place for Kas? Bezrat we'll learn Nativa Kas. There is a place for assertion. Yes, there's a place for warring. There's a place for all kinds of it's taking up arms in battle. There's the service of life, which comes in the application of the midah of netzach, and being victorious, etc. We shouldn't pretend, that those are not part of the mechanisms.
Such psychological can be quite helpful to battles of Rama.
What?
When it's part of a process,
Right.
at least in my world, it can be quite helpful.
Yeah.
Uncovering, clarifying,
What it is that's driving you when you get angry.
re-energizing one's life. There's a lot of things.
Yeah. There's a lot to be gained from those moments of anger.